Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. On this episode, I want to go over what is better than the Boonedox Landing Gear for your kayak. So what is better than Boonedox Landing Gear for your kayak? And the answer is nothing, except for one thing, which we're going to go over here shortly. I just want to tell you, I've had every kayak cart that's been out there, and I don't do it for content. I just like to have or experience for myself all the different options of how to carry or transport your kayak to the water. Even with a trailer, I still utilize the Boonedox Landing Gear. I put the Boonedox Landing Gear on every kayak I own for two reasons. When you slide it into the bed of your truck and you slide it off, you just wheel it right down to the water, you're done. Even with the trailer, having the wheels on it, if the ramp is extremely busy, I can slide this, instead of wet launching it, I can slide this kayak off my trailer, throw the wheels on it, walk down, wave to the people that are lined up 15 people deep at the ramp, go down, walk past them, put my kayak in the water, store my wheels on the kayak so I don't have to take them back to the truck, and get on the water. I get so many dirty looks when I do that, but hey, like I tell everybody out there, if you like it or don't like it, get a kayak and you'll experience the same thing we get to experience with the ease of owning a vessel like this. But let's get into Boonedox Landing Gear itself. If you guys, I got a video of the install on my new canoe, and I'm not sure, I may have an install, or I don't have an install on my Hobie. That was before, I think, YouTube. I have a video on the install on my new canoe itself, the Unlimited, and you can see I had the standard Boonedox Landing Gear. Like I said before, I've had every cart, and every time I've had a cart, I do like the carts as well. But carts are, you know, there's sometimes there's a little bit of a pain having to pick up your kayak, sliding the cart underneath them. Now, Yak Attack has some newer carts, which are a lot easier than some of the previous carts I've owned. But nothing beats having the landing gear to be able to pick up your kayak, you know, take a wheel off it, slide it out, go over to the other side, do the same thing, and store them, put them in, whatever, get back to your truck, get to the water. When they came out with the Boonedox Landing Gear, it was an instant sell for me, just for the simplicity of it and the concept of it. It makes it so easy to move this thing around, which I'm going to show you here. This kayak is pretty light, but you know, it goes over pretty rough structure, rough terrain. It's easy to move around. Walk it backwards. But you can hear, you get a lot of bounce and you can hear a lot of noise, which is not a big deal. But this is your standard wheel. I upgraded to the SANDTRACKZ wheel. So this is your SANDTRACKZ wheel. It's basically probably almost a third of the size bigger. And the reason why it's bigger is because you can see you got this rubber track, so it's going to be easy to get onto sand if you wet launch, or not wet launch, if you launch on the beach. It's got a really soft rubber track. But the reason why I upgraded myself is because this gives you cushioning as you're hauling this around. If you're like me, I go to a lot of ramps. When I don't wet launch my kayak, it's those ramps that have the rib in it. You know, they cut and they pour it that way, so it gives you traction for your rear tires of your truck. You know, with all the algae on the ramp, it gives you the traction for your vehicle and also for walking. But this gives you cushioning. It gives you almost like having suspension on your Boonedox Landing Gear. So going over rougher terrain, going down those boat ramps that have those cuts or slits in them, that you go down the ramp with this. I can't show you on today on this, but when I go down the ramp and I'm backing this into the back of my kayak into the water, you know, the kayak's bouncing and things are jiggling and shaking like this fat. And, you know, it makes it a little bit of a rougher experience. It's not a bad thing, but I figured, you know, let me get this. You know, Jeff Little has been running these since they came out on his Boonedox Landing Gear on all his kayaks. And I figured if he's running it, and it's got to be better than the original tires. Not saying the original tires on this is bad, but I could see already, just common sense, that you're going to have basically a suspension on your kayak. On the landing gear, having the SANDTRACKZ tires gives you better cushioning when you're running over those tree, your tree stumps and your tree roots, which I go through a lot of woods myself, and this goes over those. But this is going to be a lot better of a solution. You don't have to buy the whole kit to get these. You can buy these separately. These are $35 a tire on their website, and the original tires, if you lose one, break one, or whatever, are $25. So they're not that much more than the standard tires. They're $10 more a tire. And to me, this is a great upgrade to your Boonedox Landing Gear. Even if you don't do rough terrain, even if you don't go through the woods as much, it's still a softer riding, having like a suspension on your Boonedox Landing Gear to make, when you have this kayak loaded up, like when I have my new canoe loaded up, it's not as heavy as my Hobie, but I can still tell you this is probably about 125 pounds, if not more, when I had my Torpedo on there. Actually, it's probably about 150 pounds with my Torpedo, my 2 batteries, and all my gear. It's probably 150 pounds plus for this kayak. So having a little bit of a suspension makes a big difference. And I'm going to show you real quick here again, me running this up and down this driveway here, which is not really perfect. And then we're going to run this, and you're going to be able to hear and probably see, I know you're going to be able to see the difference having this on your Boonedox Landing Gear, having the SANDTRACKZ tires on your landing gear. So you can hear when you hit some rough terrain how loud that is. Hopefully the mic's picking it up, but there's a lot of, shake and vibration in the kayak. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad vibration, but it still shakes everything up. And sometimes it just, when you go down those ramps, those boat ramps, it just feels like your arm's gonna fall off and the kayak's just gonna fall apart. So let's get the SANDTRACKZ on here, and you should be able to hear and see the difference having that cushioning from those tires. So there's nothing special you have to do if you change over to the SANDTRACKZ tires. Same thing, just remove your pin and install your tires. Now you can see there's like a part here that's kind of like sealed, and not sealed, but kind of gives you the finished look to it. And you can see on the back side you got open ribs. I would imagine you're going to want the nicer looking side facing out, and slide your pin through just like you do with the other tires if you ever break these down. Now I break them down because I store them in my Yakima topwater box. So you can see this is the part that faces out away from the kayak, and then I have the SANDTRACKZ tire with the nicer part facing out. I'm sure it doesn't make a difference either way, but that's how I set mine up. As you can see, it looks like the tires compress. It gives you like that same concept, like when you go off-roading and you take the air pressure out of your tires, you make them softer for better grip and everything else, and better traction. You can see it's almost like the same thing. You can see that tire of the SANDTRACKZ, that whole tire compressing. So it looks like I'm almost running like a flat tire, with the air pressure down in the tire. So now we're gonna move this back and forth on the same terrain. And you can tell right away, it's like 80% quieter, softer of a ride. You can't tell that from the camera, you won't be able to feel it. But as I'm moving this kayak around, it is so much more smoother. I want you guys to take my word for it that having this in my hand now is so much smoother, so much better. It just feels a lot more comfortable in my hand. I'm not getting that shake, I'm not getting that jiggle when I'm moving this kayak around on uneven pavement, stones, rocks. I mean, this is like a world of difference as I walk back and forth here with this. And this is my first time doing this while I'm actually shooting this video for you guys, but just common sense, physics and everything else, I knew this would be a lot better of an option for the Boonedox. I'm doing U-turns here. For the Boonedox Landing Gear. I mean, this is unbelievably awesome. I love it so much better now. It's so much more comfortable in my hand, and I know this is going to do a lot better as I'm going down those boat ramps and backing this into the water, going across tree stumps, tree roots as I go through the woods. Those little itchy balls, anything that's a rock, anything that's just, makes the kayak jiggle, jump. With all this kind of weight on the kayak, this is a lot better option. This improvement, Adding the SANDTRACKZ tire to my Boonedox Landing Gear has made me extremely happy. Believe it or not, I use these tires a lot, even with having a trailer, just for those busy ramp days, or just the ease of not dealing with the ramp when there's a lot of people there. These tires are absolutely amazing. This would be one of the things I would upgrade on my Boondocks every time. So I'll confirm before I edit this video if you can actually order your Boonedox Landing Gear right from the factory with the SANDTRACKZ tires, instead of having to have both sets of tires, now unless you want to have both sets of tires. So I wouldn't have it any other way without having these tires on the Boonedox Landing Gear at this point. I would never want the hard tires again. Not saying they're a bad thing, but this improves your ride quality and not having the kayak shake as much, and it's a lot smoother. It's a lot more, you know, in these kayaks, like my Hobie PA, when that thing is fully loaded, that you're looking at 200 pounds. Having this on having the SANDTRACKZ on your landing gear is going to make that experience that much more better. So hopefully Boonedox is watching this. To be honest with you, I think this would be the only tire that I think they should sell. Maybe they can improve on these tires a little bit, but I would only want these tires on my landing gear. So let's see what the future holds from Boonedox. Those original tires have been around forever. They work. I've had them now for 8 years. But upgrading to the SANDTRACKZ was worth every penny. Even if I had to buy, which I did, buy the original kit with the original tires and pay the extra money for these SANDTRACKZ tires separately, it's still worth it, because the landing gear, even with all the cool carts that are out there now, this is the easiest, simplest way to wheel your kayak to the water. There's nothing else out there that I think is better than this, because they're built in. There's those longer carts that you can actually hook to the truck of your car. You can actually hook to your truck itself. I think Greg Blanchard uses it. It's almost like a kayak cart, but you still got to slide it. It's almost having a mini trailer. This is so much more simpler, a lot less moving parts, and I don't care what people say, this is the best way to get the kayak to your water. Carts work great too as well. I'm sure I'll get comments in the video saying that their cart's better than everything else, but I don't care what you say. My opinion, being in this industry as long as I have, this is the best way of getting into the water. So I'm going to stop repeating myself and stop the video there. If you guys have any questions, drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts about this, but this is definitely the best investment that you can add to your Boonedox Landing Gear to make it that much more better. So as always, guys, be safe on the water, and I'll catch you on the water. See you soon.